Network.
With me right now, Mr. Wayne Wombles from Cigar City Brewing. Let's hear it. So, Cigar City is in Florida. What city in Florida?
It's in Tampa, Florida.
It's in Tampa. Now, I interviewed Wayne, it was a long time ago now, almost 5 years, I think. How long have you been open?
We're in our 5th year.
You're in your 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I interviewed you guys when you just opened over on the Brewing Network.
Yeah, it was a Sunday night episode. I was at the brewery working.
Right.
Yeah.
We kept you away from work and interviewed you for a while. And so they had just opened, and Wayne came on the show, and he had all these great ideas that I thought were completely retarded. I was like, what are you thinking? You're going to put cigar stuff in beer? And 5 years later, he's got a line around the corner of people trying to try his beer. You guys have really blown up in 5 years. It turns out your ideas were anything but dumb. They were fantastic.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well for us. I spent a lot of my time working in restaurants and bars before I got into brewing, so I had a lot of different cultural inspiration by going through all of that, and I sort of try to put it in my beers, and I think that's what makes us a little bit different.
Sure. And you really are, in an age where barrel aging and using bourbon barrels and using all types of wood is the super popular thing for craft brewers to do, you guys started using woods that brewers hadn't even thought about.
Yeah, definitely. Oak is a very traditional wood, and there's a reason for that. It's because there was quantity of it, and also it holds liquid. It's not so porous that it doesn't hold liquid. But we do a lot of our aging in stainless when we use these different woods, and it benefits us because a lot of times when we're putting these beers on these woods, they're IPAs and higher hop beers. So we really don't want to oxidize them. We just want to pick up the wood. We use Spanish cedar, which is, we make an IPA aged on Spanish cedar, which took gold at the JBF in 2009 and then took silver the following year in the same category, wooden barrel aged beer. But we've also done a lot of experimentation with lemon wood, orange wood, lime. We're about to do another project with another brewery that's here today, implementing aging on cypress wood, which is very interesting. So I'm just trying to find something that's different, that no one else has done, that gives me one more option as a raw material, an aroma, and a flavor in my product.
So when you age on these different woods, are they actually barrels, like traditional oak barrels? Or how do you get that wood flavor in there?
No, like I said, most of the time we age in stainless for these. So we're adding spirals to the tank.
I see. To a normal professional conical fermenter, you're saying?
Correct. Yeah.
You just throw it in the top?
We have 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch ports, depending on the size of the tank. Yeah. So that's our introduction point.
Okay. If anybody has questions, we got a microphone right here. If you've had Cigar City beer before and you want to ask about how to do that, how much? You say you put these staves, these spirals into the. How much goes in? How many barrels is a fermenter to start with?
We have 15, 30, 60, 90, and 120 barrel fermenters.
How much wood do you have to throw into one of these to get the flavors? It's really a lot.
A lot, and we make a white oak IPA with American white oak, and it takes a ton of wood. But the cool thing about it is we can turn the beer in about 7 days on wood.
I see. Wow.
So we use a lot to minimize production time.
Okay. Because the wood flavor just gets imparted into the beer so quickly that way.
Much more rapidly, correct.
I see. Do you guys do any barrel aging at all? Any type of unique barrels?
Yeah, lots of barrel aging. We're growing our program right now. I've got Raspberry Imperial Sweet Stout that's being aged in Portuguese Portofino barrels. We have 14% Belgian Quad that's being aged in Appleton rum barrels. We're about to do El Murcielago again, which is a double honey cream ale that's aged in tequila barrels and infused with cumin and lime peel. Wow. I've got a lot of stuff going on. So.
How did you come up with that idea, the last one?
I love Southwest food. I could eat Southwestern Mexican food every day of my life.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make a true Southwest beer, and I felt like it would work out well. And everybody thought I was crazy, but the flavors really did marry well, and it's a beautiful beer.
Just like every time somebody thinks you're crazy, Wayne, you should just keep doing it because it works every time. Cumin in that beer. That's a spice that even in food, if you use it too liberally, it just ruins everything.
When the beer's young, the cumin is very loud, but it's really the only way to get it in to the flavor profile. Okay. So when the beer is young, it's very loud with cumin. And then after about, I don't know, like 2 to 6 months, it drops back some. Okay. But I like it either way. I like it after about 2 or 3 months.
Where in the brewing process are you able to put something like that in it? Is it going in the boil kettle, in the fermenter?
With this particular beer, what we do is we put the beer into the tequila barrels to drive up the alcohol by volume in the product. And the reason that we do that is because we're trying to reduce the possibility of infection in the product. So the higher we can drive up the alcohol, the less chance of having infection in the product. Barrel aging is hit and miss. We rely heavily on our lab to make sure that we're not blending anything that is going to cause problems later. We actually have had problems in the past. But for this particular beer, we drive the alcohol up by aging it in the barrel. Then we move it back into stainless, and then that's where we infuse it.
Okay. How high of alcohol are you looking to make this beer?
Generally, what we do with 95 to 99% of our barrel-aged beers is we drive the alcohol up before it goes into the barrel to 10.5 to 11.5 alcohol by volume. Once again, this is to prevent possible infection. So we really don't do any small barrel-aged beers. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I like that you mentioned that you guys have had problems with barrel aging beers and that it's difficult, because as consumers, a lot of times we just hear, oh, I just made you the best barrel aged beer in the world, but it sounds like you might have to dump some beer sometimes if the barrel doesn't treat you right.
Definitely. We've dumped things. We've bought back beer that we've released to consumers. Oh, really? Yeah, we want people to be happy with our product and not feel like they got cheated. Yeah. We want people to enjoy what we do, not despise us for what we do.
It's a good call. Otherwise, they don't want to be Bud Light. How much beer are you guys making right now? Because when you started, it was a small operation, and we were talking about your tasting room at that time, but you must have grown exponentially since then.
We became a regional brewery at the end of our 4th year, this past year, by the Brewers Association guidelines. So we produced over 15,000 barrels of beer last year. Wow. At the end of our 4th year, the end of this year, year 5, we're on track to do 30,000 barrels, and at the end of the following year, we're on track to do over 50,000 barrels.
That's a lot of beer. That's a great success story.
Rapid growth is painful, though.
I bet. How do you deal with that? Because your beers they're unique enough that you have to spend a lot of time on them. How do you make that much beer?
The majority of the volume is that's being sold at our 4 core brands. Okay. So, but we still produce scheduled seasonals, and we also produce collaborations and unexpected things that I just throw on the brewing calendar. Okay. But the majority of it is High IPA. Okay.
What is the beer we have in our glass?
The beer that we have right now is a new flagship that we haven't put into cans yet, but it's going into cans. It's called Invasion Pale Ale. Okay. And it's a 5% alcohol by volume American Pale Ale with American and Australian and New Zealand hops in it. Okay. The idea is citrus and tropical fruit notes.
And how about the malt? Is it just a standard 2-row, or are there some other things in there too?
Standard 2-row, but we also use Hugh Baird Karastan and light amounts of toasted malt.
If I'm stretching here because I'm trying to remember the interview, but I'm pretty sure I remember that when you guys had the tasting room, you guys had some legal issues at the time when you first opened with the neighborhood. They weren't sure if they wanted you there, and they weren't sure about the hours. And now you've opened a whole other brewery. Have the laws changed in Florida?
That wasn't really the issue. The issue was at Lincoln Gardens. It's a neighborhood in that area, and there's another Cartersville or Carter's, something like that. I can't remember the name of the little neighborhood. Yeah. A lot of the residents were going to the city council meeting when we're going up to have our wet zoning, our licensing reapproved by the city council, yeah. And protesting and speaking out against it. Even though we never had any problems, none of our customers impacted their neighborhood or their lifestyle. Okay. They just did not like drinking, so they wanted to try to get rid of us.
Got it. Is the brewery now in the same area, same region?
It's in the same area, and so we have 2 breweries now. The old brewery is in the exact same place that it was, and we built another one at the end of the parking lot. When we first started out, we were just in the far left building. It's a series of warehouses, and now we've pretty much taken over all the warehouses.
So now you've brought in a shitload of profit and taxes and created jobs. And what happens at the city council meetings now? We love Cigar City?
Well, we don't have to go up for review anymore. After you go up a certain amount of times, they don't have to review anymore. But we went from 2 employees back in 2008, 2009. Now we're up to over 51 employees.
I think that deserves a round of applause, right? We hear nothing but that there's no jobs and that the economy sucks, and craft beer is creating jobs all the time. So that's a good success story. That's wonderful. If anybody has any questions, there's a microphone right here. Come on up. Yeah, there's a microphone right up front. You can ask Wayne yourself. I don't want to hog all the questions. How do you like the beer in your glass? Is it good? Yeah.
So growing for you in Florida or Florida, do you grow towards the north, or like do you see a market in the Caribbean, South America, Central America?
There are some things that we're in the process of considering, but I can't talk about it right now. But what I can talk about is our distribution in the past and our distribution now, and what we would have to do to distribute outside the state of Florida. So in 2009, a distributor in New York called us up, and they wanted us to send our beer up there, and there wasn't a lot of local demand because we were new and no one really knew who we were. So we said we don't have the cooperage for that, and they said, well, no problem. We'll ship you cooperage, you fill it, and then you send it back. So we did that. Interesting. Yeah. We did that for several years, probably 2.5 to 3 years. And then Philly offered us the same thing. So we started doing the same thing for them. Wow. And we also were involved with a distribution point in Denmark, which is moving our beer throughout all of Europe. But I've told several people this. It was like I went to bed one night and I woke up the next day, and Florida residents wanted our beer, and they didn't want just a little bit. They wanted a lot of it, like a whole shitload of it. And then it was so basically we had to pull back into the Florida market. Like I said, this year we'll make 30,000 barrels. In order for us to distribute outside of the current Florida market with the current demand, we'd have to produce somewhere in the neighborhood of 70,000 barrels this year. And that number will increase, hopefully, as time passes over the years. So that's what makes it so complicated for us to get outside of Florida.
Okay, cool.
Why do you think? Do you have? Can you explain to yourself why that exponential growth happened overnight?
I think that we're one of the few craft breweries in the state of Florida that was doing something different and more challenging. A lot of the beers that were being made there when I got there, except for some of the brew pubs, the production breweries were making wheat beers and light lagers, and they were making beers that they thought the Florida residents wanted. They weren't making beers that craft beer consumers want. And then another thing that I think might be good for our business is that when I approach styles, I try to approach them in such a way to where they're my take and they're not exactly dead on in style for IPA. It's a little bit more or slightly unique in some way.
That's amazing. Did you have to market at all, or did the word just spread like the beer fans tend to do?
Never marketed. No need for it. It's a waste of money. Wow. And also then basically looking at, our conundrum with Florida, we can't not being able to get out because the demand. There's really no reason to. So
sure. You're making all the beer that they want to buy. It's sold before you make it.
Yep.
That's amazing. Go ahead.
I heard you guys are doing a bunch of different restaurants and stuff like that in the Tampa area. How big is that going to spread?
As far as I know, there is no more intention of going any further with it, but I could be wrong. Sometimes I don't get all the details. Right now we have a brew pub that opened up in April, and it's about 8 miles north of the production facility. Really good food, mostly Cuban. And then we have another small brewery there that's like a 3-barrel with 7-barrel fermenters. And the brewer there does his own thing. He uses a different house yeast. None of the beers that he makes there are made at our production facility. And we also have another location in the airport, Tampa Airport. It's a very small system. It's a 1-barrel system with 2 or 3 barrel fermenters, and we produce beers there that we don't produce anywhere else.
Sweet, man. Your beers are awesome, bro. I was just there 2 weeks ago. So
right on. Thank
you got the shirt to prove it. I love it.
Hey.
All right, this is a craft beer success story right here, and I love it. Wayne Wombles, ladies and gentlemen, from Cigar City Brewing.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for being with us, Wayne.